Welcome to the Explainer. Look, today we're decoding something literally every single property owner dreads, but honestly, very few truly understand until it's way too late. We're talking about the unseen life cycle of a water disaster. And to make this super concrete, we're not just throwing around hypotheticals here. We're using real-world data and specific case studies straight from Kearney, Missouri. Why Kearney? Well, it has this fascinating mix of environmental and structural factors that basically create the perfect storm for property emergencies. But whether you live right there in the Midwest or literally anywhere else, the science of how water destroys a building and exactly how professionals stop it is absolutely crucial to know.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap so you know exactly what we're covering. First, Kearney's unique water risks. Second, the 48-hour mold countdown. Third, the 3-phase restoration process. And finally, navigating insurance and recovery.
So, starting right off with Section 1, Kearney's unique water risks. You can't truly fight a water disaster unless you really understand the battleground. Geography and infrastructure play a massive, massive role in how and why water actually invades a structure. Take a look at the compounding environmental risks in this area. You've got physical proximity to Shoal Creek and Little Fishing River, which, combined with heavy spring storms, is just the start of the headache. The real kicker here is the local clay soil. It drains incredibly slowly. So instead of dissipating, the water is pushed aggressively right against foundations and crawl spaces. Now, combine that slow drainage with the older housing stock around downtown Kearney and Jesse James Park. These are homes built way before modern waterproofing codes even existed. And you've got basements that fill up fast. We even see commercial properties right along Highway 92 dealing with this exact same recurring seepage. It's honestly a perfect architectural and geographical storm.
But spring storms are just one part of the equation, right? When temperatures plummet below 20 degrees Fahrenheit in January and February, the risk profile shifts entirely. Homes with crawl-space foundations, specifically those noted around Kearney's Centennial Park area, experience catastrophic frozen pipe failures. And here's what happens. When those pipes eventually thaw out, water violently floods the insulation, the subflooring, the wall cavities. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a sudden, aggressive explosion from the inside out. And the second that breach happens, whether it's from a spring flood or a winter pipe burst, a highly destructive clock starts ticking.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 48-hour mold countdown. 48 hours. That is literally all the time you have. Surprisingly, mold spores are already everywhere in the air right now, just waiting for a water source. In areas like Clay County, humidity levels stay remarkably high all year round. And because of that environmental moisture, mold colonies can establish themselves and just explode within just 48 hours of water intrusion. I cannot stress this enough, this isn't some vague warning. It's a strict biological deadline. If the water isn't completely extracted and the materials aren't actively drying within this incredibly tight window, you're no longer just dealing with water damage. You're dealing with a severe indoor air quality and contamination hazard.
So the crucial point here is understanding the concept of hidden moisture. It is the invisible enemy. Look, surface water, that's easy to spot and vacuum up. But water secretly trapped inside wall cavities and subflooring, that is what ruins properties. Standard moisture meters often miss this entirely. If left unchecked, this hidden moisture causes structural rot that might not even show up until weeks later. This is exactly why certified restoration professionals rely so heavily on thermal imaging cameras. It is scientifically necessary to literally see the water behind the walls to stop that 48-hour countdown.
For property owners, identifying this hidden moisture early can save you thousands of dollars, for sure. The warning signs are highly sensory. You should immediately investigate any musty odors, especially down in basements or crawl spaces. Visually, be on the lookout for bubbling or peeling paint and wallpaper. Physically, if you walk across a floor and it feels strangely soft or spongy, or if your baseboards look warped, yeah, that's trapped water. Even an unexplained spike in your utility bills can be a massive red flag that a hidden leak is actively saturating your home structure. So we know the risks, and we know exactly how fast the clock is ticking, but how do we actually stop it? Let's move to Section 3. The 3-phase restoration process. This is where panic meets strict scientific protocol handled by certified pros. Before any drying even begins, professionals have to classify exactly what they're dealing with. A Category 1 breach comes from a clean source, like a simple supply line bursting. It has a much lower immediate health risk. But Category 3 water, that is grossly contaminated. We're talking about sewage backups or exterior floodwaters full of mud, bacteria, the whole shebang. Category 3 requires incredibly specialized safety protocols,
full protective gear, and the immediate application of EPA-registered antimicrobial treatments to prevent severe health hazards. Treating a Category 3 situation like a Category 1 is a literal recipe for disaster. Once that water category is identified, the response follows a rigid, absolutely unbending sequence. Step 1 is emergency extraction. Using these massive truck-mounted industrial pumps, standing water is removed in hours, not days. Step 2 is complete structural drying. This involves deploying commercial dehumidifiers and heavy-duty air movers to physically pull the moisture right out of the building materials. Finally, Step 3 is restoration and repairs, where destroyed drywall and subfloors are replaced to return the property to its pre-lost condition. You absolutely cannot skip or rush a single one of these steps. And this brilliantly illustrates the incredible level of scientific precision required in that second phase. Drying isn't just guesswork. It continues until readings return to normal levels, specifically within 5% of pre-loss. This is the gold standard. Technicians will literally take a baseline moisture reading in a completely unaffected area of your house, and they will not put their drying equipment out until the wet materials are within 5% of that baseline. It's not based on a clock. It's not based on just feeling dry to the touch. It is based purely on objective, undeniable data. And honestly, that scientific documentation is your best friend when it comes to recovery, because once the water is gone, the bureaucracy begins. Which brings us to Section 4, Navigating Insurance and Recovery. So how long is this actually going to take? I mean, this is usually the absolute first question on a homeowner's mind once the immediate panic subsides and they've got these loud, massive machines running in their living room. It's a vital question for managing your life and figuring out your family's temporary relocation. Let's move to and see how this builds into a standard recovery timeline. Day 1 is pure triage, emergency extraction, and assessing the damage class. By day 3, you are in the thick of it with structural drying. Technicians are constantly monitoring and adjusting equipment to maximize the airflow. By day 7, for a standard job, the drying is complete, and you're moving deeply into the physical restoration and securing those insurance claim approvals. Now, keep in mind, things like hardwood floors or old plaster walls might push this timeline a bit longer because they release moisture very slowly, but 3 to 7 days is your standard baseline expectation. Now, the big question, who is paying for all of this? Sudden accidental damages like a burst pipe, a malfunctioning washer, or storm roof damage, those are usually covered by standard homeowners insurance. But, well, be warned, if a pipe has been dripping slowly for 6 months due to neglect, you're likely on your own. And most importantly, outside flooding, like a creek overflowing into your yard and right into your basement, is almost universally excluded unless you have a separate, specific flood insurance policy. To ensure your covered claims are actually paid without a massive fight, your restoration team's paperwork acts as your ultimate shield against adjuster pushback. Your insurance company wants proof, right? You need daily moisture logs showing progress. You need thermal imaging photos proving exactly where the water migrated. You need detailed scope sheets and those objective baseline readings we talked about. This level of meticulous scientific documentation totally eliminates disputes. It proves exactly what was wet, exactly how wet it was, and the exact process used to dry it out.
Well, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, from the slow-draining clay soils of Kearney to the rigid drying standards and the intricacies of insurance documentation. Water damage is incredibly fast, it is silent, and it is scientifically complex to fix. So I want to leave you with this final critical thought to reflect on for your own property. When the unseen pipe bursts behind the wall or the heavy spring rains overwhelm your foundation, will you be ready when that 48-hour countdown starts? Think about your own vulnerabilities, check your insurance policy today, and always know exactly who to call before the water starts rising. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer.